Mark Skaar on 103.7 The Fox. It's the Skaar Kaard. Proud to welcome in Jeff Scott Soto. How are you, sir?
I am doing great, Mark. It's great to talk to you again.
Yeah, and we want to talk about the new Sons of Apollo record and some touring with Jason Bieler. But right now, of course, the elephant in the room is COVID-19, the coronavirus, and it's just shut everything down, including your dates with Jason that you were going to have coming up. You were scheduled to be in Des Moines May 9th, but as we were just talking off the air, those have been moved.
They're still being moved. Not everything's been confirmed and completed, but we realize that it's even if this thing cleared up by the beginning of April, it might be a bit too soon to expect that everybody's ready to clamor into public spaces, and I personally don't think the social distancing thing is going to really work in a live concert setting, especially when you have a sold-out show in a small place. So it makes sense for us to move things to when we feel or when everybody feels it's going to be safer, and just it's more valid in going out and celebrating music and celebrating life again. Because right now there's a lot of people down in the dumps. There's a lot of people losing jobs and money, and it's a really bad climate right now. So it'd be financial suicide, I think, for most bands to go out too soon. I think everybody is going to need a little time to recover before they're ready to go out and start celebrating and spending their money again.
So in the interim, Jeff, you have taken to Facebook Live and used it to your advantage, and you've been pretty much talking to fans every day.
I started on Wednesday. I started with the Instagram Live, and then I decided I don't have all the same following, or I actually have more following on Facebook, so I decided to do a Facebook one the next day. And, as performers, as entertainers, as artists, that's what we're here for. In general, we go on tour, we put up a record or a video. We're there to kind of give you an escapism, or whether we're antagonizing a situation to get you all riled up, or we're just giving you a few minutes or a few hours to get away from what's going on in life. And, I kind of felt it's my duty to do so even now without necessarily doing something where, I got a virtual tip jar out there asking you to pay me for it. We're all in this together. We're all human. We're all kind of in the same playing field right now. I'm no longer Jeff Scott Soto, the rock star, as much as Steven Tyler isn't, because we're all susceptible to this, and we're all just human beings right now trying to get through a time. So I'm trying to use whatever status I have or whatever anybody feels and thinks I have, and kind of sharing the time away the same we would in a live concert setting. You get to ask me stupid questions about my career that you might already know the answers to, or you just want me to blurt it out to everybody in a public setting. But in general, it's just a chance to just escape from this stuff a little bit. I try not to dwell in it too much, because everybody knows the reasons why we're all stuck at home and why we're all lining up for a live chat.
Talking Jeff Scott Soto, let's jump into the Sons of Apollo, MMXX, which of course stands for 2020, the second record. Tell me about how this came together. Was it, would you say it was more cohesion than the first time? You all know each other now if you didn't before. Tell me about how this thing came together.
The cohesion side of it is definitely based on having that unity already, that the chemistry that we were able to build upon from the touring line of things. Clearly, everybody knew each other, whether they were just acquaintances or they've been touring and doing other things together for so many years. And in this case, Mike was the closest to everyone in the band in other scenarios and other situations. But yeah, even the first few weeks of what we were doing live didn't really start gelling and settling in until we had those dates under our belts, until we started feeling out the chemistry of what we do and how we do it. And even in every band, like I've been in bands with other people, and the music kind of dictates where the chemistry of where the live entity is going to be taking you. So this was completely new and different and alien to everybody. And by having the 2018 tour under our belts and all that time we spent together, I absolutely feel the cohesiveness was definitely utilized on the new album. The writing structure was the same as the first album, Psychotic Symphony, but the actual I had a better sense of where I knew this band was going and where we were taking this, as opposed to the first time I was guessing, and I needed the kind of guidance of Mike and Derek over my shoulder, because I wanted to make sure first, number one, that they were happy and I was meeting along the lines of what they had in mind in this. Second time around, I knew exactly what I needed to do and where my role lied, so they gave me that respect to craft and create on my own, and then that's when we get together and we kind of chisel it and pick it apart and make sure that it's something that works for all of us.
Talking to Jeff Scott Soto about MMXX, the new Sons of Apollo record.
Let's call it 2020. It's so much easier.
Okay. I know, right? Less of a tongue twister. So let's dissect a couple songs that I've had a chance to play on the Skaar Kaard. The first track I played was Desolate July, and I know that has an awful lot of meaning for you.
Well, yeah, that's the first time I heard that song. It had that very eerie, kind of a funeral kind of vibe to it, especially with the church bells at the beginning. And I did want to do something as a tribute, as paying homage to David Z, my dear friend and bass player from Soto, and he was with TSO, and he's been longtime friends with Portnoy as well. I wanted to do something for David, maybe possibly on the Soto record, but I'd already done something on there for my. Well, I did a song for my brother, but we'd already utilized David's immortality on a song there, and I didn't want to kind of share the album with something for him in that sense. And while we're utilizing him on another track, I just thought it was. I didn't want to make it look like I was just bastardizing our friendship, basically. So I was saving the idea of doing it for something else, and what better vehicle to do it for, especially to get more people to listen to it, more people's attention to it, with Sons of Apollo. And, of course, I got the thumbs up from Mike, who absolutely wanted to be a part of it just the same. So, like I said, when I first heard the song, when Derek played me the music to it, it just brought me to that place, and I knew exactly what I wanted to write in terms of the lyrics, the title, and even the subject.
So let's jump to Fall to Ascend. That's another one that's gotten some airplay.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite tunes on the record. I love the breakdown where Mike and I kind of have that Alice in Chains kind of vocal interplay. And, all the songs in general on 2020 absolutely kind of, they tap into the new world and the kind of where we are all at right now. For better or worse, between the divisions of political and religious unrest, it pretty much just ties in everything that we're dealing with. And I'm not taking sides. I never do that when I'm going into any kind of political or religious connotation. I basically just give you the subjects, and I let you decide which side you think I'm actually going towards or what I'm writing about. But it's more of a neutral perception of what's going on, and that's pretty much what most of the album is exactly about that, especially the song New World Today, the 16-minute monster on the album.
I was going to just bring that up. What happens to a vocalist when he's presented with a 16-minute piece of music?
Well, I'm sure that the same thing was brought up to the guys in Queen when Freddie came to them with Bohemian Rhapsody.
Sure.
What are we going to do in this section where the opera section happens? What is an opera section in a rock song? It's exactly that. These guys came out with this monolith epic song, and I could not wait to get my hands on it. I could not wait to see what I would come up with, because there's so many different sections, and it's like a roller coaster. It's one of those kitchen sink songs, it's just one of those songs that just takes you to so many different places. And I wanted to be able to do that with the melodies and the way I sing, the way I'm writing, everything about that is to me it's one of my top moments of my career, my life.
It's probably like a painter with an empty canvas, and the sky's the limit as a writer, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I try to keep that concept in mind with a lot of things. But something like this, you absolutely you just get to do it all. And it's one of those it's everything in the kitchen sink. It's what I call this song.
And I know you were getting ready to do some touring, or you did do some touring, and then we know what happened.
Yeah, we were already in Europe. Things were going down, but Europe wasn't necessarily as affected, or it wasn't really. It was still mainly in Iran and China that the problems were going about, and we knew we were far enough away from those areas. But we also knew that with any kind of airline travel. If anybody's seen the movie Contagion, that's exactly how these things get around. You don't have to visit a country or a state or a city that's got any kind of contagion or any kind of disease or anything that's going around. As soon as that one person gets on a plane, it becomes a global event. And so it was kind of starting in those regions. And we did a day of rehearsal before the first show in Germany. And that night we got back, and that's when things were actually starting to boil. In Milan, they already told us that the show might be moved, might be canceled. At that point, the club was closed down for any events for 1,000 people or over. So they were saying we might have to move it somewhere else, and everything was like hearsay. And then after we did that date, then Switzerland, they started kicking in. We might have to be closed down. And then France started having issues, and we all looked at each other and say, "Oh, we probably better pack this up and go home," because once we do these fly dates, Russia and all the fly dates before we get on the actual bus, the bus is where the real expense begins, and we're going to be hitting all the territories that are being affected. So it's probably better to do these few fly dates and wrap it up and go home. And we kind of got blasted for it. We got criticized, especially in Spain, that why couldn't you at least do these shows? Why couldn't you do? And they didn't realize the severity of it. We didn't either. But the last thing we wanted to do was wait around and possibly end up in an army hospital somewhere when we could just go home and just be with our loved ones and wait this thing out. So we made that decision, and all of a sudden there was just a domino effect of cancellation after cancellation. And then now you see what's happening in Spain. It's like, thank God we came home.
We're Jeff Scott Soto. So obviously it's hard to plan ahead, but I was going to ask you, what do you think the rest of 2020 is going to be for you?
Well, I'm trying to be ever the optimist, but I'm always a realist. I'm not a pessimist by any state. I always try to think of the grass is greener scenario. So on the realistic side, I don't think we're going to be doing or going anywhere until maybe the end of June, maybe the middle of July, and even that's skeptical because it's going to be a while. My personal opinion is I don't think we've even seen the peak of this yet. And if that's the case, it's going to take longer for us to bounce back than it took for us to actually lay back. We're laying back now, and if you tell us to sit back for 2 weeks or a month, we might be able to bounce back within a couple months. But if we're down, if this whole planet is down for a few months, it's going to take probably a half a year or longer for everybody to start kind of falling back into place and kind of resuming life as we remembered it. So I really don't know. I want to be an optimist in the sense that we're going to be up and running in no time again, but I also have to be a realist that even if we are, we're going to have so much competition of everybody vying for the same real estate and trying to make up all these dates and all these tours that they had to cancel.
Yeah, that is for sure, and it's a heavy and hard time, and I guess we'll just see where we go from here. Jeff, I want to thank you for talking about 2020, the new Sons of Apollo, and everything else that's going on in the world right now, and we just want everybody to stay safe.
Yeah, and you know what? Mark, thank you for taking the time to do this with me, and thank you everybody who's listening and everybody who supports Sons of Apollo or Soto or anything that I'm doing, or just the music in general. You know, this is something that we absolutely, positively, we might not say it that often or often enough, but we so appreciate people like you and the people that are buying the music and listening to the music, because we can't survive without you, and now we're all in this together. So I don't want to leave this on a negative note. I want to put it on a positive tip and saying thank you to you and thank you to everybody that supports music and supports everything that keeps us all going.
Jeff Scott Soto on the Skaar Kaard on 103.7 The Fox. Thank you, sir.
You got it.